Everyone, this is Mr. Garcia, and in this lesson we are going to learn or review how to find the slope when given 2 points, the coordinates of 2 points, a mapping, and also equations in standard form, linear equations in standard form. Please make sure that you have your name on here in this space, okay, that way I know who to give credit to. All right, so let's go ahead and review from geometry and algebra 1 what you've seen as to how to find the slope, or what you've learned as to how to find the slope of a line. So slope is also known as rise over run, so rise in y over run in x, and also delta y, so change in y over change in x, so delta y over delta x, and this is the formula to help you find the slope, so y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, so you saw this in algebra 1 and also in geometry last year. So let's go ahead and go to a couple of examples. Notice that I have all of this already labeled for the sake of time, okay, because I don't want to take too long on this video lesson. So if you want to pause the video and copy what I have here, I suggest you do that. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video and copy everything you see, and then press play to continue. All right, so first of all, if I'm interested in finding, don't forget delta y over delta x means the slope. Okay, if I'm interested in finding the slope of the line that contains these 2 points, I've already labeled x1, y1, x2, and y2 because I'm going to use this formula here. Okay, so this formula says y2 minus y1. So I'm looking at this y2 value and I have 1, right? And then the formula says subtract. So y1 is 0. And then x2 is negative 3, and x1 is negative 2, so minus a negative 2 now. Don't forget, if you have a negative in front of a negative, that's going to turn into a positive, okay? So then 1 minus 0 is 1, and negative 3 plus 2 is going to be negative 1, and 1 over negative 1 simplifies to negative 1. So the slope of this line containing these 2 points is negative 1. Now, on the next example, notice that I switch x2, y2, x1, y1, and that's because you can do that, okay? As long as you're consistent, don't mix x2 with y1 and x1 and y2. As long as you don't mix them up, you can. It doesn't matter how you place them. So this could be x2, y2, x1, y1, or x1, y1, and x2, y2. Okay, so just be consistent. So again, I'm looking for my y2 value. In this case, y2, because that's what the formula says, is a 2. So 2 minus, okay, I'm just following the formula, y1 is 2. y2 minus y1, so 2 minus 2. And then x2 is negative 1, and the formula says subtract, minus negative 1 minus 3, so that's going to be 3 here. But we know that 2 minus 2 is 0. And negative 1 minus 3 is going to be negative 4. But division, if I divide 0 into negative 4, the answer is going to be what? The answer is 0, right? So delta y over delta x, which is again the slope, is 0. So this line, just as a quick review, I want you to see something here. Okay, notice my y values, okay, they are the same. So whenever you see that, that means you're gonna have so what it means is it's that you're gonna have a horizontal line. That's what it means, so keep that in mind. If the slope is 0, then you have a horizontal line. All right, so let's go to the next example. Okay, so for this one here again, I have labeled x1, y1, and x2, y2. So I have y2 is 1. Again, subtract y1 from it. y1 is 4. And then x2 is 5 minus x2, that's also, x1 is also a 5. So then this becomes 1 minus 4 is negative 3. And 5 minus 5 is 0. Okay, now this is not 0. Notice the difference. This is 0 over negative 4. This is negative 3 over 0. So this is not 0. Don't get confused, these two. So what happens here is that the slope, delta y over delta x, is going to be undefined. Okay, so that's the slope of this one, and I didn't box the previous one. Let me go back and box it in. So we need to box in our final answers. So notice here, okay, so I'm going to do an arrow on this one and also on this one here. Okay, what do you see about the x values? Yeah, the x values are the same. If that's the case, then that means we have a vertical line. Okay, so horizontal line means it's going to look like this. We're just looking at the y-intercept, and on this one we're looking at the x-intercept, which means where the line crosses the x-axis, so it looks just like that. All right, on the next example, I have a mapping. Okay, so on a mapping, I just chose 2 points, so I chose the first 2 points, but I could have chosen the last point. Okay, so I chose these two: 0, negative 2, and 4, negative 5. And I also labeled them. Okay, so for this one again, I'm going to take my y2 value. My y2 value is a negative 5 minus my y1 value, that's a negative 2. And again, negative in front of a negative, that's going to turn this one into a positive. Okay, and then I have x2 is 4 minus x1 0. So then this negative 5 plus 2 is a negative 3. Okay, and negative 3 and 4 minus 0 is going to be 4. So then my slope for this line, delta y over delta x, is going to be equal to negative 3/4. And there is the slope. All right, so let's continue with the next examples. Okay, so here I'm being asked to graph the following equation and state the slope and y-intercept. Okay, before I'm able to do any of that, I need to determine what is the slope of the line and what is the y-intercept. Okay, so don't forget y-intercept is the point at which the line crosses the x-axis. The y-axis. Okay, and the slope is what we just learned how to find. But what happens if I'm given an equation? Then this is what you do, and you saw this as solving for y in algebra 1 and geometry. So I need to get each one of these equations looking in this form: y equals mx plus b, which is slope-intercept form. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to subtract the 8, okay, from both sides of the equation. And then I have 2y equals, I'm going to keep the x at the front, okay, and subtract 8 from it. And next step is, since I want to get the y by itself, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to divide by 2. And I'm going to do this to each one of the terms. Okay, so then this leaves me y by itself. And notice that I have just one x. Okay, so that means I have 1 over 2, and this is the slope, and I need to write it this way so I can see the slope. And then the x next to it, and negative 8 divided by 2, it's going to be negative 4. Now, this is the m from here, and this is the b. Okay, so before I do anything else, I'm going to state the slope and the y-intercept. Don't forget the y-intercept is a coordinate. It's two values, the x value and the y value. So it's two values here. So for the slope is going to be 1/2, right? And the y-intercept, the value of x is going to be 0, always at the y-intercept. Okay, and the y value is negative 4. So it's a coordinate. The coordinates for the y-intercept is 0, negative 4. And this is the answer for this part. Now next, I'm going to graph. Now to graph, you need to have at least 3 points. So always start with the y-intercept. Okay, so the y-intercept is at negative 4, y-x is 0. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then this, the slope is positive, so it should be going up from left to right. So it has a rise of 1 and a run of 2. So up 1 over 1, 2. And again, up 1 over 1 and 2. So once you have 3 points, go ahead and use a straight edge and then graph the line. So this is the line that represents this equation. Okay, so let's move on to the next example. Again, this one, it has 2 in front of the y, so all I need to do here is divide by 2. So I'm going to divide this by 2, and this one by 2, and this one by 2. So all 3 terms. Okay, so then I have y equals, this gives me the slope here, negative 3/2 x, and 4 divided by 2 is it's going to be 2. So there is the equation. I didn't box this one in. I'm going to go back and box it in because that's part of my answer, and this one is also my answer here. Next, I'm going to state the slope. The slope is negative 3/2. So it has a rise of 3 and a run of 2, but keep in mind this slope is negative, so instead of going up, this is when it's going to be going down. And the y-intercept, again, the value of x at the y-intercept is 0 always, and the value of y is going to be 2. Okay, so I'm going to box this in. Now let's get to the graphing part. So always start with the y-intercept. 0, 2. So this is x is 0, 1, and 2. And then this one has a rise of 3 and a run of 2. So I'm gonna go down 1, 2, 3, and over 1, 2. Okay, and there's 1 point, and I'm gonna get one more. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So once you have the 3 points plotted, then you can just use a straight edge so you can get a straight line. Please use a straight edge. Sometimes students don't use a ruler or a straight edge, and I can't tell if your graph is sketched correctly. So it's very important for this course that you use a straight edge. Okay, so let's go on to the last 2 examples on this page, and I'm going to stop this lesson or this video with these 2 examples, and then I'll do the second page on another video. Okay, so in this case I see x equals 2. That's all I see. Okay, so what does that tell me about the slope? The slope of this line is going to be what? See, we're running into something like this. Okay, the slope is undefined, so the line is going to be a vertical line. The question is, where's that line, vertical line, going to cross the x-axis? It's going to cross it at x equals 2. So I'm going to plot 3 points at x equals 2. 1, 2, and I can keep going up, 3. And then I'm going to graph the line. So then I'm going to use my straight edge or ruler. And this is the line that represents that equation. Okay, so what is the slope of this one? Undefined. Okay, what is the y-intercept? Does it cross the y-axis at all? No, so we just say none. Okay, so this will be the answer to this problem. Let's go on to the next example. Now notice this one. This is y equals. So if it's y equals, what is the slope? Okay, so if you only have y equals, that means the slope is 0. So if you have 2 points, you end up with something like this. Okay, so the y values are going to reduce or become 0. So you have division, you have 0 divided by any number, and you end up with slope that's 0. So then the only value that matters is the y value. So I'm looking at the y-intercept. So where does the line cross the y-axis? And the answer is here. Okay, so it's going to cross the y-axis at 0, 2. And then once I have the 3 points again, I'm going to graph the line. Okay, and that's the line of, or that's the graph of this equation. So the slope of this one is going to be 0, and the y-intercept is at 0 and 2. So horizontal lines do have a y-intercept. Okay, vertical lines don't have a y-intercept, they have an x-intercept only. All right, so I'll see you in the next video.